Hey guys, it's Rayne, and today we're going to be dyeing some 19.5 micron super fine merino wool top today. It's combed top. First thing I'm going to do is get my top soaking. I've got two containers here, and I'm going to fill it up with my regular tap water at room temperature, as close as I can get it to room temperature. And then I'm going to add some citric acid. This is the kind I get. You can get it at Walmart. Every utensil you see in this video is only used for dyeing. I use acid dyes that are professional, and I only use all this stuff just for dyeing. I don't use it for any of my tableware or anything like that. Okay, I'm gonna go with 2 teaspoons. 2 teaspoons. In each. 2 teaspoons in each. So I'm going to stir that around and make sure all the citric acid is dissolved, and throw in our braids. I have 4 3.5 ounce braids that I'm soaking in my big restaurant pan. Make sure when you're pushing it down, as you can see, I'm just pushing it down gently and just getting the water to absorb into the wool. I don't want to agitate it or stir it around or anything like that. Just push it straight down until it gets completely absorbed and submerged. I got the restaurant pan on Amazon. I believe it was around $23. It was in the $18 to $23 range. I'll link it in the description box if I can. And in this other little container, I got it at Walmart. It's for dishes. I got it in the dishes section, I believe. I have 4 braids in here and about 6 ounces in here, and I am going to let this soak for about 20 minutes, and then I'll come back and show you what we're going to do from there. So this video would be too long if I tried to show you how I mix my stock solutions from the original powder acid dyes. So I filmed a separate video on that, and it will be up shortly if it's not already linked in the cards. Check the cards to see if it's linked there. And if it's not linked there yet, stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell notification so you can be notified of my future videos, and it'll be out shortly. Alright, let's do this. Peach blush. In my squeeze bottle here, I have a very diluted mixture of peach blush by Dharma, and when I dye, I always keep a notebook or some form of electronic note-taking next to me when I'm making my colorways. That way, when you want to repeat a colorway, like if you want to do 2 or 3 braids of the same exact color and pretty close to the same tone of color, the same shade, you want to keep track of how much dye you're mixing in with your water as you're adding it to the braid, and that way you can get your repeating colorways. So when it comes to dyeing comb top, you want to make sure that when you put the dye on, first of all, that you've properly soaked your combed top so that it's already wet, and wring it out before you put it in your cellophane lined container or your cellophane lined counter. This technique is called hand painting. So when you put your dye on with your squeeze bottle, you want to make sure you press the dye into the combed top so that it gets fully absorbed. This color I'm using right here in this squeeze bottle is called Valentine Blush. It is also by Dharma, and it is also a very diluted mixture. Now I'm going to slow it back down for you to normal speed. Right here you can see comb top is very hard to get fully saturated all the way through that thick layer of wool. So when you dye comb top, you usually do have to turn it over and dye the other side. So what I did was I took the same amount, the same dilution, and I'm going to go over it one more time on the other side to make sure it's fully saturated with dye. Now you will notice when I went to add the Valentine blush, I do have less water in my squeeze bottle than I did before. I'm going to do a whole video, maybe even a whole series on depth of shade and the math and the science behind your dyes and how to keep the same consistent color even though you're using less water each time, because it's very important with combed top. When you have it, when you're hand painting like this, you cannot use too much water, because if you do, the dye and the water is just going to run all over the place and it's going to start to bleed into parts that you don't want it to. So it's very important with the comb top, especially in hand painting. So stay tuned for that also. So now we're getting into the really fun but really scary part, the dark navy on the other side of this colorway. This one, I was very nervous about. I have my squeeze bottle completely wrapped up tight with paper towels to make sure that it doesn't leak or get any on that Valentine blush, and you'll just have to stay tuned till the end to see if any leaked on the rest of it. So I mixed this one up and I made sure it was very saturated. In fact, I started out with a 2% stock solution of the dark navy. It's also by Dharma, if I didn't mention. All three of these colors are by Dharma. And I also went ahead and just went over the back as I went, because I knew it wasn't going to go all the way through. And I have to give it to Dharma. This color is gorgeous. Like, I was very, very pleased. I was a little nervous when I seen it in the tube after I mixed it with the stock solution, because it looks purple. It looks like straight up purple in the jar after you mix your stock solution. But once it goes onto the top, it is dark navy, just as it describes. So stay tuned and watch and see what happens with this colorway. So when you have such a saturated deep dark color on one side and then such a light diluted color on the other side, you get a little bit nervous, because this next task we are going to wrap it up in the cling wrap and put it into a steamer basket so it can steam set, and that way we won't felt it at all and it'll be just as fluffy and gorgeous as it should be. So this is the part that you want to get nervous at, if anything. Alright, since this one is so difficult, we're going to put film wrap on top of it also. Alright, I'm adding an extra layer of protection, because I don't want this to bleed onto the pink and the orange down there. We're going to keep these colors crisp. Absolutely don't want any bleeding. So starting at the lightest end, always start at the lightest end, and I'm going to just roll it up like a big burrito and try to transfer it to a steamer basket that I have on a different eye, and I'll show you that after this. Oh, I'm so nervous. Don't bleed, don't you bleed. But the key with the method that I'm doing is to make sure that your deepest, darkest color is on the bottom of your steamer basket so that it can just drain through the basket into the water, the boiling water underneath. That way it doesn't leak back or bleed back onto the lighter parts of the other fiber. And that is pretty much what'll save it and get you those deep, dark, rich colors in your fiber. And yes, you can add some water to that leftover dye and put some fiber in there and do a no dye left behind and use that dye. So here it is, fingers crossed. So I left it on medium-high heat until it came to a boil on the inside, and I let it sit at that boil for about 20 minutes. Alright, here is a results from last night of dyeing. I let it stay in the pot to cool overnight. Here's what we have. So I'm going to take it and put it in my little rinse pan. I use this in the sink to rinse my wool out. And let's see if we got any dye in there. Yep, we got some dye in there that we lost, that leaked through. And that's totally okay. We can reuse that dye. Oh, look how pretty that is. I am in love with this colorway. That deep, dark navy in contrast with that peach blush and the pink. It literally just fades. Oh, it's so beautiful. I was a little nervous about bleeding, so I decided to rinse first. And I just rinsed the navy first. I kept the light stuff out of the water and just gave the navy an initial rinse. And as you can see, just a tiny little bit of blue came out. And then after that, I wasn't worried. So I got just a few little drops of dish soap and I mix it in with the water as it's running, just like you see me do. You want to make sure you don't felt your top, so you just want to press down gently and don't like scrub it around or anything. Don't agitate it or move it around. You just want to press down and then squeeze. Don't wring it. Just press down and squeeze. That's all you want to do. And you want to always rinse your comb top as many times as it takes until all the bleeding is gone. And if you do have a lot of bleeding, like an abnormal amount, like more than what's in this video, this is a normal amount, you might want to soak your comb top in a solution of just plain tap water and citric acid. I would say like a teaspoon of citric acid, maybe even a little less, and some tap water, and that can help with heavy bleeding. I just kept having to admire how saturated it got and how beautiful it was during this whole rinse and wash process. And I just want to mention, after I used that first little bit of soap, I don't use any more soap after that, unless you're bleeding a lot and you need to use a little bit more. But after that first wash, you don't need any more soap. You just want to keep rinsing it until you feel that it's not going to bleed anymore. And then I usually will take it and I will hang it up on like a kid's coat hanger or just a regular coat hanger, and just hang it up somewhere where it's nice and dry and it's away from everything. It usually takes around a day or two before it's fully dry and you can braid it up. Are y'all ready for the big reveal? Here we go. I've decided to call this colorway Nebula. You should be able to find it on my Etsy shop, Rayne Fiber Arts, but if it's not there today, it will be very soon. Don't forget to leave this video a like, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram and TikTok, RayneFiberArts.com. Bye-bye!